Welcome to the SPARCC Educational Technology Conference for 2022. The title of this session is Using Classkick for Engagement, Feedback, and Practice. My name is Chad Hoffman. I'm the Technology Resource Teacher at McKinley High School in the Canton City School District. I've also listed my email at the bottom just in case anyone watching this recording has any questions about using Classkick. Please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. Let's take a look at our session objectives for this video. Today we're going to explore the basics on lesson design in Classkick. We're going to get familiar with the lesson view that teachers see when designing in Classkick and also what students see when working on lessons in Classkick. We're going to take a look at how to build rosters and then share lessons that you've built with other colleagues. We're going to find ways that you can quickly use current resources that you already have, whether it be PDF files, possibly JPEG or PNG images, how to quickly use those in Classkick to make an interactive activity. We're going to discuss multiple forms of feedback that can be provided, which really sets Classkick apart from other platforms. And finally, we're going to identify ways to provide students with opportunity to create inside of the Classkick app. So here we are at classkick.com. This is the homepage. If you have not yet signed up, very simple process. We just want to go to sign up, which is free to do. Choose the teacher option. My suggestion would be to sign up with Google. You also have the option to sign up with Clever or sign up with an email. But once you sign in with Google, you'll pick the Google account that you want to use. And then every time you come back, logging in is very quick and easy. So at this point now that I have my account created, under login, I can either log in as a student or a teacher. I'm going to go ahead and choose teacher. And then at this point, if I just continue with Google, choose the email that I want, and that's going to take me to my dashboard. So here we are at the Classkick dashboard. Let's take a look at a few of the different things we see. First of all, up here at the top for assignments, what you'll see in my list of assignments here, I have some folders at the top. So any of my assignments can be organized in folders. If I see this little document icon, those are individual assignments. And where we can put those together is if we come up here to the plus button, and under that, we can create a new blank assignment. We can create from file. We can also create a new folder for organizing those. Next up, we have the rosters. I have many rosters from classes that I've taught over time. Nice thing with rosters is that you can either build your own roster. The best option that I've used with students over the years is just to import your roster right from Google Classroom. One caveat with that, you do need to have a pro subscription to import those rosters from Google. Under the notifications here on the left, you will get messages that come in as students have a hand raised or a question on an assignment, which allows for shortening of the feedback loop there. Under your profile information, this will give you your basic information. One thing that you do need to be aware of, under organization, this is where you can at any time change or join your organization. If you're part of a group that has a pro subscription, that's where you're going to set that to make sure you get those pro features. Otherwise, you'll just see up here a basic icon as opposed to pro. And then one last thing to point out down here under help and resources, Classkick's customer support and their resources for teachers are really, really good. If you have a question about any number of issues designing lessons for admins of pro accounts, even questions for parents that they might have about Classkick, a lot of good information and resources under this tab right here. Some of the help and resources that we talked about on the dashboard can be found here. As you can see, they have resources directly for teachers. They also have resources directly for an admin of a Classkick Pro account, also for students or parents. One of the things that I think is really helpful, really useful that we want to take a look at is the assignment library. And so I'm going to go ahead and take a look there. And then let's go ahead and let's take a look at that assignment library. I'm going to kind of click my way through this. The assignment library is really nice because once you have your account created, you can look through literally hundreds of lessons, and there's a lot of things already created to be used out there. And you'll have to take a look. Their mileage may vary there based on your content area and your grade level, but you don't have to start with creating your own information. There's a lot of stuff already out there. All right, well, let's take a look at what we're here for, and that's to understand how assignments work and how to use those with students. So we could create a new assignment from scratch, but we're going to get started with a PD assignment here just to show you some of the basic features. This is the teacher dashboard for an individual assignment. It has 3 views at the top: edit, assign, and view work. We're going to just focus on the editing side for right now. A couple other features that are available: name of the assignment. You can set subject and grade level. Access, you've got 2 different options: private for only your students. You can also turn it to shared, where you can share links with colleagues. Other teachers can use the assignment you've created and vice versa. So I'm going to go ahead and, as you see, Classkick is set up just like the old Smart Notebook or as Nearpod, other things are, where you have these individual slides. I'm going to go ahead and open up the first slide here. Let's take a look at some of the different activity types. This first one, we're not going to actually watch this video, but it says click the link to watch an intro. You see this little tab here, that's the video link. All you need to do to insert the link, you can add the title and the URL right here and insert a YouTube video right into your slide. Another thing that's very nice, you can do any type of drawing or annotating. This one's asking the students to write their name in green. Using this button here, they can draw with many different colors of pen. Using this button here, they can type in text. And you can do the same thing when you're creating assignment slides as well. Right now, this is just the teacher view, so we're just taking a look at how these things can be added in there. This is just text right here. Here we have draw your favorite animal below. Notice these little play buttons. These are audio recordings giving the directions, which is a really nice accommodation. Using this button at the top here, you can record your audio by just hitting start recording. Once you're finished, you hit stop and it'll give you a little placeholder like that with a play button, which is a very nice feature. Here's a question for the students, asking them to use the audio tool to record information. Same type of thing. They're going to use the audio button in this case and record their answer. When you go back and look at the information, you'll be able to listen to what they recorded. Here is a slide that has a graphic in the background asking students to annotate on top of it. To put that graphic in there, all you would need to do is go to add image. You can either add a picture from using the camera of the device. You can also upload from your computer any type of PDF or PNG, JPEG, and then students can annotate on top of that. That's really helpful in social studies and in science when you have some diagrams that you're working with. Now, this is really nice in terms of interactivity. You can do manipulatives on screen. And so you can see each of these pieces of change is an individual manipulative. Now, it's very easy to put those on there. It doesn't take very long. All you do is each of your images, you would add those on this editing screen in the form of a graphic. You select the file you want to use. And then what you can actually do is copy that manipulative and paste it a number of times. That's how these piles of change were made. And students will be able to then move those around and manipulate those on screen. That is really useful if they're using an iPad particularly. It will still work with Chromebooks and other keyboard-based devices, but on a touch screen, it's really a nice feature to be able to move those around. And you can do that with any image that you have. Also on screen here is a fill in the blank question. To create a fill in the blank, all you would do is add that blank box like this, and then add an acceptable answer. And so when the student types in their answer, they would be able to then get feedback on that right away, which is a really nice feature also. In this case here, we have some oral language practice. Here's a language arts example. You can see the sentences below. Students can work with the pen using different colors or the highlighter using different colors to show the corrections that they want to make. So now that we've looked at how to edit the individual slides and we have a little bit of an idea of what type of activities are available, what kind of things that you can use with students in a Classkick lesson, let's take a look at how we're going to get that lesson out to the students. So I'm going to come over here to assign. And for this particular assignment, this is something you would have to do with each and every assignment. We're going to choose a roster to assign to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick this sample roster that I have here. And when I assign that roster, it gives me some different choices. I can turn grades on and off. You can assign point values to the items on each individual slide, which is really nice for feedback because a lot of them can be instant feedback. Helpers is a feature that I can turn on. If helpers is turned on, students can actually put a hand up and ask for help from an anonymous classmate. So depending on the type of interaction you have with your students, students can actually help each other in this app. Under hide, sometimes you have an assignment that is assigned, but you don't want students to see it just yet. If you toggle this hide on, they won't see it in their list of assignments. The same thing with lock. If you have a due date that's come and you don't want them to go in while you're grading and make any changes to their slides, you can actually lock the work that they already have done, and that work will not be able to be changed or edited. Now, what happens is with any roster that we assign, if we're working on on the pro subscription, students will actually have a portfolio where all the assignments you assign to them will show up in a list very similar to what I had on my teacher list. If we go back here, take a look, it'll be very similar to that. But let's take a look under assign here. Let's take a look at the other way that students can enter at any time is just by entering a class code. And so I'm going to show you how that class code will work here from a student perspective in just a second. That code will allow them to log in and put their name in there. Now, real quick, let's go back to the roster just in terms of roster management here. So this sample roster was not a Google Classroom roster. You can see I just added some students here, example student 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if I go back to this assignment for just a minute here, what you'll see once I sign in, here are all the example students, and these are those slides that we just looked at. If they are grayed out, that shows me that the student has not yet looked at them. We'll come back to this after I give you a little preview of the student view. But this is really nice because if I look at this and it's all gray, I can see really quickly, hey, a student hasn't even opened this assignment yet. And so that's how you assign work to students. Now let's go ahead and jump over and let's take a look at what it actually looks like when students are working through those slides. One thing we need to mention quickly before we move on to the student view, how do you share an assignment that's been created? So let's take this Classkick PD assignment, for example. If I hit the arrow in the assignment list, it'll give me some sharing options. Sharing a copy with colleagues, assigning to students using a class code, and adding to my shared assignments page. If I share a copy with my colleagues, I can either enter emails here and send a link where they'll be able to make a copy of that assignment. I can also go over here and just directly send them the copy of this link, and they'll be able to see the assignment that way. Just a couple other options that are in there. Assigning to students using the class code would be as simple as sharing this code right here. And then lastly, adding to my shared assignments page. You'll see there's a whole list of assignments here that I have marked as shared with others. And then I can easily just copy this link and share all of those assignments with another colleague. So in terms of collaboration, that's a very nice feature from Classkick. So in the last session, we looked at how to take an assignment and assign it to a class roster. That generated a 6-character code. Now we're going to log in with that code, which this can be done in the basic version, and take a look at what it looks like when the student gets to work. I'm working on iPad for the student version today. I think iPad gives you the best value in Classkick, although there's a lot of great things that you can still do with Chromebook using a keyboard and a trackpad as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put my code in. And once I enter that code correctly, it's going to come up as a Classkick Pro code. I'm going to work as example student 1 who is on my roster there. Once I type in E, as you can see, it auto-completes. When a student enters an assignment with a class code, you only want them to put their name in once. They can go back and enter that class code, and if they put their full name the first time and a nickname the second time, they can end up being in that assignment multiple times, and whichever one they work on, they're only going to have part of their work there. So if you have an assignment that's going to take multiple sessions, they might have 2 assignments where all the work's not together, and that's really difficult to score, so you want to try to stay away from that. We're going to go ahead and tap continue working here. You can see it looks a little bit different on the student screen. The slide fills the screen, which is a little different than in the teacher view. You still get your tools at the top that the students can use. We're going to work our way through and take a look at how the students would work on some of these different things. As we do this, try to think about how this would relate to different content that you could have for students. So we know that the video is available here. Now, one mistake students make sometimes when they try to play this video right in Classkick is if the pen is selected and they go to tap on the screen, it's going to put pen on the screen. They need to have the selector tool selected. Once they hit this link, the video will open. We're not going to watch through that entire video, but they can also, as you see at the bottom here, they can open that in the YouTube app or browser. So nice feature. By the way, to get ink off the screen, if you tap the eraser, you can erase a little bit at a time. The other thing that you can do that's really nice is if you tap the eraser, you can go clear all and take all of the writing off the screen at once, which is great. This slide asked us to write our name in green using the pen or a text box. So let's go to green pen and we'll make it thicker ink. Now, students writing with their finger is difficult. Full disclosure here, I'm using Apple Pencil. But if we zoom in on the screen, students I've found have more success by zooming in and then writing. And then when they zoom back out, it looks neater than if they tried to write it with a real thin pen zoomed out. Remember, students are going to have a lot more success with the writing tools on iPad compared to Chromebook, and they're going to have much more success using a stylus of some kind as opposed to trying to write with their finger. I've had students try to draw and write with their finger, not very easy to do effectively. If they wanted to do this in text, they can hit the T at the top. We'll choose the green color. They can type their name, and there it is. What's nice about that text box, whatever they've typed can be moved anywhere on the screen, and if they don't like it, they can pull it right over here and delete it as well. If the students are using the audio tool, this is a great way to have them interact with their voice. All they have to do is hit the audio button and record. My name is Chad. I'm originally from Fremont, Ohio. What I love most about school is interacting with other people. And then once they save that recording, it will upload their audio. And once the audio uploads, it's going to put that in there as a button, and they can put that anywhere on screen. We'll take a look at how the teacher interacts with that in just a moment. Now, this is great here when you can use these diagrams in the background. So it asked us to circle in a red pen somewhere we would like to visit. I'm going to choose Hawaii out here. And you can put any type of PDF or image in the background and then have students annotate over top of it. So think of the possibilities there. Those are unlimited. What's also interesting here is the hand raise button. It says click the hand raise button in the top right. Now, in this case, you can see that I have 2 options. Let me put my hand down for a minute. If I just need help, I can tap here, and the teacher will see on their end that the student is looking for help. If they want their answer checked, they can do that as well. One thing to keep in mind, sometimes they get their question answered and they forget to put their hand down. So they do need to remember to put their hand down. Otherwise, you might get a long list of hands up as you're working with the students there. Let's go ahead and keep my hand up so we can see that on the teacher side, though, when we get there. Next up, manipulatives. Now, these are great. So we have the teacher had put in all of these different pieces of change. We want to choose our selector tool and not our pen so we can move our manipulatives. It says that Bella has 3 dimes, so I can move those dimes over here. And again, I'm using an iPad, so I have the touch screen to do that. 1 quarter and 8 pennies. So I'm going to go ahead and move all of my change over there. It asks me then to figure out how much money I have. So we have 30 cents, 55, 63. So if I type in 62, ooh, it comes up red. The student gets instant feedback. If I type in 63, okay, the student earns the point. It's now right. So think about that as the student's working with that and typing in their answer. They're getting feedback from the way you've set up the question without you actually having to stand over them. One other thing to take a look at. So here's our daily oral language. It says use the highlighter and pen tools to make corrections. This is kind of nice because using different colors, students can write over things that are incorrect and change those. So there's an example where you can use that interactive tool. And again, this would be something that could be done using your finger on iPad. I would not recommend this type of question using Chromebook because it's really difficult using the trackpad to draw with those pen tools. What you could do though is you could add that text box in there and have the student type it correctly as well. So this gives you an idea of how the students interact with a Classkick assignment on the student end, and in this case using an iPad. What we'll do next is take a look at the teacher view of that work. So now that we've taken a look at how students can work through the assignment, let's take a look at what the teacher sees. So we've already looked at the edit and the assign tabs. Let's go to view work. Now what you can see is in this roster, example students 2, 3, 4, and 5 have not yet opened this assignment, but I can actually see all of the slides that were viewed by example student 1, which is a nice feature. So let's go ahead and kind of go through and take a look at their work. And I can see there that they've written their name on slide 3. If I wanted to give feedback to that, there's a couple different things that I could do. One, I can assign the point there for them having completed that. 2, I can also add a sticker. And so nice things about stickers, there's a lot of different images of stickers that we can use here. I can also put a sticker text, which means I can use those over and over again. And I can also add points for given stickers as well, where it can kind of all be done at once. So here's my great job sticker. And I'm going to go ahead and add that in there. I can put that anywhere on the slide that I want. So there's a way that you can add in some feedback to their work. Same thing with the favorite animal. I can add the point. I could also add a sticker. If I wanted to, I could even write or type on their screen as well. So I have those options. I can listen to their recording. I need to make sure I have my selector tool up here. So the teacher has the opportunity to listen to the student's work just as the student can listen to what the teacher has recorded. Now, here's where that hand raising part comes in. They've asked me to check. So I can see any of the students' hands that have gone up, and this will come in with the student name, what they asked for, and then giving me a time frame of how long ago as well. So once I check this, if I see that they've asked for a check, and I decide and I'm working now on computer, this is a little harder for me to check for them. If I want to give them some type of feedback, they would see that check mark on their screen now that I've written that on there. And what that also does, now that I've checked on that screen, you can see it put their hand down as well once I checked off that student's work. Okay, same thing here. There's really nothing for me to do because this was a fill in the blank question. It's already provided them feedback with their point values there. And then I can also come in here on slide 8 and take a look at the corrections that they've made. And if I like what they've done, I can add the point in there as well. Now, when I go back out of the student's work here, take a look at what that's done. It puts anywhere I've given feedback with the assigned points, it's going to give me that information in green at the bottom. This 63 actually is their answer. So if I just have that one answer on there, that can be helpful. Now notice the student is not finished yet, but once they get through all those slides and I've scored all of them, it's going to give me a total point value right here as well. And right now that student at this point has earned 4 out of 9. So that's a really nice way as you've gone through and scored these and graded these to monitor the point values. Now, one thing that I've found in my experience, and this is going to depend on what type of devices you work off of, what you prefer, what you have available, I found that I was able to most efficiently grade and score their work working on iPad. So my students worked on iPad as their primary device. I taught using MacBook and iPad, but I found that scoring those on iPad, I could work really, really quickly using a stylus to write on screen. Also, being able to tap in the box and add the point values worked really, really well. One of the things that I think is really great is that in real time, as I'm adding things like these stickers, as I'm adding things like these check marks, the students see that come up on their screen. So when I was teaching using iPad, I could be moving about the room, working with students and giving that feedback. And as I was doing that, um, they're getting that real-time feedback. So that's a really nice feature in Classkick. And this is how the teacher is able to view the student work. So now that we've taken a look at how Classkick works from both the teacher end and the student end, let's take a look at just a couple examples of ways that you could use Classkick to make lessons that you already teach much more interactive and much more engaging with a pretty minimal amount of work. So I'm going to come up here to the plus button. We're going to go to a new blank assignment. When you're starting from scratch to create a new assignment, you'll give it a name, subject, and grade level. Choose your access level as well. And in this case, I'm going to start with this first blank slide. Now, what I want to do for this, I'm going to use an example from a science activity. When I was teaching middle school science, we did a lot of work with FOSS kits. FOSS kits had tons of PDFs that they wanted you to photocopy on paper and tape in a notebook. Classkick allowed me to make those notebooks digital where students could work using iPad, and they were much more interactive. Let me give you an example. So I'm going to go to add an image. I'm going to upload from the computer. And I have a 5 material observation grid. That's a PDF. Instead of using that on paper, I'm going to go ahead and you can see I can actually select just part of this, drag to select. In this case, click to select all. I'm going to add this to the current page. And then I'm going to go ahead with that image and hit finish. Okay, at this point, it's added it. Now, one of the things that I like to do with this is expand it out a little bit just to fill the space. So I'm going to expand that way, and I'm going to expand this way. Now, let's take a look at what this is for. Actually, this is a chart that went with a science experiment where we had 5 different vials, A, B, C, D, and E. And what FOSS, the directions they actually wanted you to do was they wanted you to make these observations with drawings. First observation when the material was dry before putting it in liquid, after 10 minutes, 24 hours, and then we could fill in a couple days later. So the one thing that I found over the years is that some kids who are really gifted with the ability to sketch and draw, they would like this. And the rest of the kids, when they would draw these things, they really in a couple of days couldn't even tell what they drew. So what we started to do, and I can't even take credit for this, I had a student who came up with this idea who said, why are we going to draw this? We've got a camera here. Let's just go ahead and using our camera on our iPad, let's just take an image and insert that image into the box. And it worked out great. Each time we made those observations, the students would gather that data by taking pictures. They would add those into the boxes. And then at the end, when they went through to compare, they actually had visuals that they could look at and not just their own drawing. And it worked out really, really, really well. I can't even take credit for coming up with an idea. It was actually a student's idea, and it worked so well that I translated that over to several different things that we worked on. So there's just one example of engagement. Kids tend to gravitate toward photos, video content, and this is an example where you can add that into a science experiment. Let's take a look at one other way that we can use something from FOSS-Kit to add to our engagement level here. Going to add another PDF. In this case, plant cell structures. So we'll go ahead and do that the same way that we added the other. Make it a little bit bigger. Now, the first thing that's really nice about this is that when we're looking at these different parts, when students are on their screen, they can use the pen tools and they can, with different colors, color code these parts. And we can actually come down here and highlight the name and then color code the part. The other thing that we can actually do is put a fill in the blank in each of these boxes. And then as far as a function goes, add an acceptable answer here, type it in, add a point value. And by doing that, the students then, when they type in the function, they can see if they're correct and they'll earn points as they fill those in. One suggestion, if it's something open-ended like function, I might suggest putting a word bank down here, because if their answer doesn't match exactly what you have, they wouldn't get points for that. Now, that's a science example, but think about that. That could be used in many different subject areas, that type of activity. I'm going to take a look at one last example of a way that you can take a kind of a mundane activity and make it a little bit more engaging and a little bit more functional and practical as well. This is also from a SPARCC activity. This is a living and non-living things card sort. Just to give you a little background on this activity. So the way that this was set up, the FOSS kit for the students had, for partners, 15 bags with 30 of these cards in them containing objects that they had to group as living, non-living, or undecided. And so, as you can imagine, with middle school students, it became, one, difficult just to get all the cards picked up at the end of the period, because all these groups had their different cards and they needed to be bagged up. Inevitably, some of the cards would get lost, the sets would be incomplete. And the other thing that, as we continue to build our knowledge, FOST asked us to do is come back and revisit our cards, how we had those grouped. And middle school kids are generally pretty good about grouping those cards the first time, but they don't like going back and trying to remember how they grouped them the second day and the third day. So what we did there is we actually took all of those cards, and I did not have to screenshot these individually. These were actually PDFs in the FOSS-Kit materials digitally. I made each one into a manipulative. So each of these items, the students on their screen are able to move into the appropriate columns. And the nice thing is, after they do that with their partner and they're working on their iPad, moving those around with the touchscreen, or they could do it on a Chromebook as well with the cursor and with the trackpad, they have an archive or a record of where they put those. So as they learn more about the characteristics of living things versus non-living, they can always go back and update and change those lists much easier in this digital format than what they could do with the physical cards. Now, here's another nice thing. FOSS asked us as a class to go through and make a consensus as to where we would group each of those things at the beginning of our unit. And so you can see that what I did here is, for period 1, we just used a highlighter, and I went through, and this is actually on the edited slide. So this would come up on each student's notebook as well, as I edited those. But we marked where they put each one of those. And because it's going to vary, I just made a slide for each class period, and we were able to see each list as it varied. I was able to kind of use that and go through and make each class period's individual list, but then I could use those to show students how period by period the answers varied a little bit as well. So one more example there of making a card sort. You can do that with any type of image, any type of graphic that could fit with a variety of different subjects, different grade levels. But again, especially when you're using an iPad with that touchscreen feature, Classkick gives you a lot of ways to take normal and mundane activities and make them, one, more functional, and two, a little bit more engaging as well. So we've taken a look at a lot of different things involving the Classkick app over the last 30 minutes. I hope this has been worthwhile to you. I really believe that Classkick can be a game changer in any classroom if it's implemented properly, because it gives so many opportunities for students to become engaged in the learning, also for them to practice, and for the teacher to provide efficient and effective feedback. Once again, my name is Chad Hoffman. I'm the technology resource teacher at Camp McKinley High School. If you have any questions involving using Classkick with students, or if I can be of any assistance to you in any way, my email is listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and have a great day.